Alright then. We're finally here. It's time to talk about Marshall D. Teach, aka Blackbeard. Now, of all the characters in One Piece who are villains, we haven't really seen that much of Teach. In fact, after the 2-year time skip that happened shortly after Ace's death, we haven't really seen him in person. He's popped up a couple times since his introduction, but then, like, after the time skip, he's, like, just gone by the wayside. So, we don't know a whole lot about him. There's been an image that, Oda, the author of One Piece, he drew this image of a young Teach as a young boy, and he looks like a scruffy young boy sitting there on what looks like, a cold, desolate street, and he's got a tear running down his eye. So, implications from that picture, he probably didn't come from a very good background. Now, Blackbeard is currently a Yonko. He got this after pulling the stunt that he pulled at Marineford. He ended up getting this ability, or this title, because he acquired a bunch of powerful people to follow him, and now they all have like little ships that they all are part of the Blackbeard fleet. Blackbeard used to be a member of the Whitebeard Pirates, but he was basically just, let's do this in Marineford. Here's Marineford. Blackbeard was basically just biding his time, because Blackbeard had a plan. Blackbeard still has a plan. We don't know exactly what his whole plan is, but the way he acts and the way he carries himself and everything, Blackbeard is basically Luffy gone wrong. I think at least to some extent he wants to be king of the pirates, but he's very ruthless in his tactics. Like, one thing he knew about the devil fruit, that is his main power. But he was a member of the Whitebeard Pirates, who he was just basically biding his time. Now, you have to understand how serious what he did in the Whitebeard Pirates was. He was just, the Whitebeard Pirates kind of all conduct themselves as like one big family, alright? Like, just about everybody in the Whitebeard Pirates kind of referred to Whitebeard as Pops, as Dad, basically. So they were all kind of like, one big extended family. So, after Blackbeard pulled his little stunt of killing Thatch, who I believe was the 2nd Division commander before Ace, that was a big deal. That was a big betrayal, to find out that really he's just been using the Whitebeard Pirates, biding his time, hoping that they would find the devil fruit that is his main power, and that is the Yami Yami no Mi, or the dark fruit. And basically, it lets Blackbeard. He hasn't demonstrated the ability to turn into darkness, so that's kind of weird that he can't do that. But he can generate incredible darkness, and you've been seeing it here in this fight where he kind of generates this black, shadowy substance out of his hands. And the dark fruit very much plays into the old thing of, darkness swallows up everything. It's thanks to the dark fruit's ability to, like, swallow up everything that he was able to beat Ace. Ace used Sun Emperor, which, like I said, was like a huge, nuke ball of fire that should have roasted Blackbeard, but because of his ability, with, you know, absorption through the power of the darkness that he can generate thanks to the dark fruit, Blackbeard was basically able to negate Ace's powers. And speaking of negation, that is something that he can do. It seems to require physical contact. Like, okay, like ranged attacks, he might be able to, like, you know, overcome that, like absorb it and take it and negate its effects, just by using a huge amount of darkness. That's how he, like, overwhelmed Ace's Sun Emperor. But when he actually gets a hold of somebody, like there was a time when Luffy tried to attack him, and he caught Luffy in midair by, like, around his waist, and as long as Blackbeard had a hold of Luffy, Luffy's gum powers did not work. So, like, through physical contact, Blackbeard's fruit can completely disable all other devil fruit powers. Now, it does seem to require that he, like I said, it does seem to require that he be in physical contact with the person. So, like, you know, he could completely negate Hancock's powers here, but he'd have to get a hold of her first. He'd have to, like, you know, grab her and maintain a hold on her. Now that move right there is his big one, where he basically creates, like, a huge vortex of darkness and sucks things in. And as far as we understand, it's like basically getting pulled into, like, some kind of pocket dimension, where everything's horrible, and basically people that get sucked into that, if they manage to survive it, they come out and they're all mangled and traumatized. Like, don't know what goes on inside that dark fruit dimension that he can pull people into with his power, but it's something horrible and nightmarish, because people that do survive it, you know, they come out mangled and beat up, but if they do survive it, they're traumatized. So that's... Well, okay, I guess I'll let this happen just so we can see how that... Well, okay, well, you kind of suck, Blackbeard. But anyway, we don't know what happens, but that's how that power works. And, like, he's used this on, like, ships, and, like, when he releases the ships come out and they're all, like, broken and busted all to hell, and so definitely a very extremely damaging technique, but it's actually very simple in nature. But you know, and he can, like, you know, shoot blasts of dark power. He's done that in this game. I'm fighting Frieza right now, but he can coat his hands in darkness, but for whatever reason, he doesn't seem to be able to turn into darkness. But, you know, maybe it's just like darkness is the void, it's the absence of everything, so maybe it's like that's the one Logia devil fruit that, like, if he went full darkness, if he turned himself into full darkness, then it would be like he's become the void, and the void is nothing. So Blackbeard would become nothing. So maybe if pushed too far with his dark fruit powers, maybe freaking Blackbeard could be tricked into wiping himself out just by having him go try to turn himself into full darkness. It's kind of weird. But there is a side effect of that absorption ability, that since Blackbeard cannot turn himself into darkness and thus make himself immune to damage, and because of that absorption, Blackbeard, if he is hit, the absorption effect kind of works. Alright, alright, there we go. This is what happens when you get sucked into that, like, dark portal thing. and then he uses Liberation on you. Now, it's not as damaging here in the game, because, like, it seems to be like a one-hit KO in the story. He can also, like you saw, use the darkness like a vacuum to, like, suck people in towards him, and then, like, you saw him grab Boa's head. Now, if Boa, you know, tried to use her powers to fight out of that, she probably wouldn't have been able to use them. So, you know, I think the trade-off for the fact that he can negate other Devil Fruit powers and, like, suck all this stuff in using, like, the dark vacuum, crap like that, I think maybe that's the, like, just logistically, like, okay, this dude can shut off Devil Fruit powers. You know, he doesn't need the ocean or Sea Prism Stone. It's just something that his own Devil Fruit abilities allow him to do. We need a weakness. So, like, okay, well, what about, like, his Logia Fruit's the one weird one that he can't turn himself into, just like whole body transformation into his element to negate damage. And also, on top of that, if he gets hit, his absorption ability works against him and causes him to take feel twice as much pain. You know, so like Luffy has his first mate Zoro, who's a swordsman. You know, he can slice and dice with the best of them. You know, if Zoro fought Blackbeard and he managed to, you know, slice Blackbeard up due to the nature of Blackbeard's abilities, he would feel twice as much pain from all those cuts. So there is a definite downside, but, you know, Blackbeard was looking more towards the positives. He knew about the Yami Yami no Mi, the dark fruit. He knew what it could do. And there is an encyclopedia in the One Piece world that tells about, one, what the different devil fruits that are known look like. You know, the ones that have been seen before and used before. You know, like, there's an encyclopedia kept, like, that's how people knew that, oh, that's the gum, like, you know, Luffy has the gum fruit. The gum fruit has been seen before. And the reason why Blackbeard knew about the Yami Yami no Mi, or the dark fruit, was because the dark fruit had been used by somebody else before. So he knew about this fruit, and he was basically putting his cards on the table, betting that if anybody was to find the dark fruit, it was going to be the Whitebeard Pirates. So he joined up with the Whitebeard Pirates and played nice with them until they did just so happen to stumble on to the dark fruit. And then that's when he killed Thatch and thereby betrayed the entire Whitebeard Pirates, and, you know, royally pissed off Ace, and we know how that went. Did not end well for Ace. Now, there's another thing that he managed to do to the Whitebeard Pirates, and that was he killed their captain. Whitebeard, aka Edward Newgate, was already kind of getting sickly. I mean, he was strong as a damn ox still, and tall, and he was a freaking man mountain. I mean, literally, this dude had to have been like every bit of, like, you know, as tall as Blackbeard is. Like, you can see in the game, you know, Blackbeard's a really tall dude, and there are some really tall characters in One Piece that are still considered just ordinary humans, but they're just, like, exceptionally tall. That I believe Blackbeard, even though he was considerably older, or even though Whitebeard was considerably older than Blackbeard, sorry, I believe Whitebeard was still taller than Blackbeard. So he was ripped, you know, like, he had muscle upon muscle. So Whitebeard was nobody to scoff at, even though he was getting old and sickly and his body was beginning to deteriorate. It's kind of interesting, like, Whitebeard was like the #1 rival to Goldie Roger, who was king of the pirates. So it's like, if anybody could have, like, potentially succeeded Roger as like the next king of the pirates, it would have been Whitebeard, and like, you know, Goldie Roger had to turn himself in because of like an illness he developed, and now Blackbeard, you know, years later is now also suffering from an illness and starting to deteriorate. So maybe he got the same thing that Goldie Roger got. Who knows? But even still, he was a force to be reckoned with. I mean, he was a Yonko for a reason. Now, he, unfortunately for him, due to what happened to him at Marineford, he suffered a lot of different injuries at Marineford when he went to show up to save Ace. And then Blackbeard and the pirate crew that he had at the time, which was very small, I think it only had like, I don't know, 4 or 5 members with, it only had like maybe 4 or 5 members with Blackbeard being one of them. But he did get many more members later on that he acquired from Impel Down, and I'll explain some of them more later on. But he acquired them, and then I think he's acquired a couple more since. He's acquired like 1 or 2 more since then, like during the time skip. So now they're all like just the same as Whitebeard had, like, you know, Ace to be like a 2nd Division commander, and he had like a 3rd Division commander who also has a Devil Fruit ability, and the 1st Division commander also has a Devil Fruit. And I'll talk about them as well. I might do them together because there's not a whole lot about their Devil Fruits that we know. The 1st Division commander's name is Marco, and the 3rd Division commander's name is Jozu. And we don't know a whole lot about their backstories, or really we don't even know what, I believe we know what Jozu's fruit is called. We don't know what Marco's Devil Fruit is called. But we don't know like the ins and outs of everything they can do. Like we've barely seen them in the story, so we don't know the entirety of what they can do. But like I might just slap the 2 of them together, simply because we don't know a whole lot about their powers. But going back to Whitebeard, Whitebeard was very sickly. Weaker than he normally would be. He suffered many injuries. He's been stabbed and slashed. He's had to fight some strong opponents and just barely fend them off. All the while trying to save Ace. And then finally, Blackbeard and his crew come along and they finish the job. And it's like a frickin', I don't know, like I think it's like 9 or 10 people on one situation, and they kind of all take a shot at him, and they eventually bring him down and they kill him. And then like right as they manage to kill him, they throw this huge tarp over him, and everybody's like, what the hell is going on? And then Blackbeard kind of like, he goes to go under the tarp, you know, go in there with the, you know, now deceased body of Whitebeard, who is such a badass that even though he's dead, he died standing, and he's still standing. His body did not fall. Like his body did not fall over upon death. Like that's how strong he still was. Like even in death, his body did not fall over. So that says something. So they throw this big, you know, curtain over him, and then Blackbeard goes under the curtain laughing, and he's like, ha ha ha, watch this. And then he goes in there, and you hear kind of rustling around for a minute, and then Blackbeard emerges, and he's laughing maniacally, and he's like, hey, you all want to see something? And then he busts out the power of the Devil Fruit that Whitebeard had, which was the Gura Gura no Mi, or the Tremor Fruit. Which, if Frieza or somebody will ever switch places with Blackbeard, maybe we could get him to do it. Because he only has like one move that he really uses with the Tremor Fruit. in this game. I mean, I'm sure there's other things he can do with it. There's plenty of other things he could do with it in the story. You know, basically anything Whitebeard could do with it, Blackbeard could do with it too. But the Gura no Mi, or the Tremor Fruit, granted Whitebeard and now Blackbeard the ability to generate shockwaves. And when he did it, he would have like this little kind of semi-transparent bubble of energy appear around his hand. Or Whitebeard also carried this huge spear, and he could, like, you know, channel his tremor powers through the spear as well. He could, like, it wasn't just limited to, like, okay, he stomps his foot and creates, like, you know, earthquakes. He could totally do that. Now, Blackbeard can, too. But he can even, like, just, like, put it into his fist and then, just, like, kind of look like he's, like, punching the air. Like, imagine, like, an invisible wall being right next to Blackbeard, or right next to Whitebeard. It would kind of look like that, and then, like, the effect of his power would take effect, and it would kind of look like he cracked. Like, you'd see, like, these crack marks in that invisible wall, so to speak. So it's like his power is so great that it cracks the air, and now Blackbeard can do that as well. And the Tremor Fruit is exactly what you think it is. It creates tremors. It creates intense vibrations and shock waves that can travel through anything. The ground, the air, water. It's not limited. He can just do this. And now Blackbeard can do it too. Now this is why it was such a big shock to, like, everybody that was watching it. You know, they're at the actual battle, and everybody, you know, reading the actual manga in the real world was like, okay, so far, like, we had been told previously, well, what happens if you have a devil fruit and you try to eat another one? Like, do you get both powers? Do they combine to create something new? Does it just not work? Some people, and basically just explain, no, try to eat 2 devil fruits, the powers will fight inside you for dominance, and it will end up leading to your body exploding and you die. Now that could just be hearsay, could be happenstance. We've never seen anybody really do it, and technically we still haven't, because, you know, friggin' Blackbeard and the gang were very secretive about how they did this. So we still don't know exactly how Blackbeard acquired the power of Gura no Mi straight from frickin' Whitebeard, like, right after he died. Like, we didn't see, like, normally what happens with a fruit is that the power of once the user dies, the power goes out and goes and finds the nearest fruit to possess and turn it into the next version of that particular devil fruit. We've actually seen this process happen when this creature called Smiley, which was a creature that a guy named Caesar Clown created by throwing a zone devil fruit that was an axolotl, I believe is how you pronounce it. It's basically an aquatic salamander. And he combined this fruit with, like, cause, you know, Caesar Clown, he has, like, I believe it's called the gas fruit, which his body is, like, made of poisonous gas. He's a Logia as well. His body's, like, all poisonous gas. He's all about poisons and poisonous chemicals and stuff like that. He somehow, like, took all the poisonous chemicals that he had, mixed it all together, and then threw this devil fruit into it. And somehow this devil fruit combined with that and brought this poison cocktail to life as a gigantic, toxic, aquatic salamander that was basically Caesar's pet, that he named Smiley. Now, Smiley was defeated and did die, towards the end of this whole scenario, and we see when he dies, now this could have been just an anime thing only, I'm not sure if it showed up in the manga or not, but in the anime, when Smiley is destroyed, I guess that's really more the accurate thing to say, destroyed, considering what Smiley was. When he was destroyed, the power of the devil fruit went to the nearest fruit, which happened to be an apple hanging on a tree, and it transformed the apple into a new version of the I don't know what to call it, the axolotl fruit, the maybe it could be like the sala fruit, or the salamander fruit, the lizard fruit. I don't know what it would be called, but that's what happened, and that's how devil fruits kind of work. So, like, when Ace died, his power went to the nearest fruit, and it turned it into the next version of the Flare fruit. So when Whitebeard died, his power should have left and gone to the nearest fruit and created the next version of the Tremor fruit. But somehow Blackbeard managed to bypass that and get a hold of the power without it. Like, we don't know if he, like, went underneath the curtain, pulled out a fruit he had hidden on his person somewhere, and then like, got the power to go into that fruit, and then he ate it. Like, did he find out that, like, that was just an old wives' tale? Like, that's just like a story that was spread so that, people don't try to eat multiple devil fruits because they don't want the people to get, like, stupidly powerful. Like, it'd be kind of bad if somebody ate a fruit that let them turn themselves into electricity, and then ate another fruit that let them turn themselves into freaking, like, into freaking lava. So now we have both, thunderbolts coming out of one hand and freaking hellfire lava coming out of the other hand. That would be a deadly ass combination. It's like, maybe he found out that was just an old wives' tale. You can actually do it. It's stated by a couple of characters that Blackbeard has a unique body. His body's not normal. So, that's the whole theory of, like, okay, maybe because of this abnormal body, this abnormal genetic chemistry that Blackbeard has, he's the one person, or maybe, that 1 in a million person that can, actually eat 2 devil fruits and, not explode and be able to effectively use both powers. That's one theory. Another theory is, and I'm just going to touch on this now because I'll be touching on some other devil fruits later on that will need some explanation. There's a guy named Dr. Vegapunk who works for the world government, and I think he also may moonlight. I think he does kind of moonlight with the Revolutionary Army, so he's playing both sides because the Revolutionary Army has access to some stuff that seemingly was all Vegapunk's doing. But out of everybody in the known One Piece world, Vegapunk is the one guy that knows the most about devil fruits. The next person after him would be Caesar Clown, who is also a scientist. And I think he also worked Caesar also worked with him as like an apprentice or something. So they do know quite a bit, but Vegapunk knows more. And somehow Vegapunk came up with a method to take a devil fruit, and the way it's stated in the story of One Piece is that somehow the weapon eats a devil fruit power. That's like just a generalized term because we don't really know how exactly this process works. Like, we don't know how it works because odds are, you're not gonna have a freaking sword or a gun just suddenly magically produce a mouth and eat a freaking devil fruit and gain the powers. So we don't know how exactly it works, but, since everybody knows you have to eat a devil fruit to receive the power of it, it's just the generalized term of the weapon eats the fruit. And there's been, we've seen like a kind of a very large cannon-like gun that was used by some of the cronies of Crocodile. it was a giant-ass cannon, but it ate the dog fruit model dachshund. And so it was able to turn into a freaking big dachshund with the giant-ass cannon for, like, the main part of its body. And that was, like, the first time we saw that. Well, there's a theory that says that that whole curtain thing and Blackbeard having, like, this unique abnormal genetic physiology was all smoke and mirrors to cover up the fact that Blackbeard actually had access to some Vegapunk technology, and, like, it might be that it's in his rings. Like, instead of a weapon, it's in his rings. So, like, when he got to Whitebeard and through that, like, maybe he got a hold of some research from Vegapunk and learned that, okay, after a devil fruit user dies, it's not like the fruit, like the power of the fruit doesn't immediately leave. It takes a few moments for the power to completely leave the person's body. So there's like an opening, a window of time there, and you know, this is all just speculation, but that's one theory of how this could happen, is that, okay, Blackbeard knows there's this window of opportunity, so he gets this, like, Vegapunk ring, and does all this smoke and mirrors to hide what he's actually doing, which is going under that freaking curtain and absorbing Whitebeard's Tremor Fruit powers into his ring, into one of his rings, and that's how he gets to use the power, because the power is actually now in the ring, and he's tapping into the power that's in the ring. He's controlling the ring, and the ring holds the power. That could be that, you know. He is a deceitful guy, so who knows? That could be what Blackbeard really is up to. And another theory for Blackbeard, how he has two powers, is what I like to call the three powers theory. Some people also call this the Cerberus theory. Now, the Cerberus theory says that at the time that he eats or takes the Tremor Fruit powers from Whitebeard, that Blackbeard actually already had two Devil Fruit powers, and that would make the Gura no Mi, or the Tremor Fruit, technically his third power. And this theory hinges on the idea of that Blackbeard, maybe prior to getting the dark fruit powers, maybe somewhere along the way after he got the dark fruit powers. I think it's primarily hinges on before the dark fruit powers. Before he got those powers, he already had another set of powers that he got from eating a third devil fruit. That would be the dog fruit model Cerberus. And the reason for this is all the pirate captains, like, they all have, like, their unique Jolly Roger, you know, skull and crossbones. And it's typically, and that Jolly Roger is typically used as the symbol for the entirety of the pirates. You know, so, like, Luffy and the gang, Luffy has, like, his Jolly Roger is a skull and crossbones with his signature straw hat on top of the head. And that serves as not only his own personal Jolly Roger, but it also serves as, you know, the symbol for the Straw Hat Pirates. Well, for Blackbeard, his personal Jolly Roger and the Jolly Roger that represents the Blackbeard Pirates, has 3 skulls with the crossbones. And they're all vaguely dog-like in appearance. So some people are saying that this is symbolic of the fact that he ate a legendary zone, which was the Dog Fruit model Cerberus. Now, legendary / mythical zones are exactly that. They are zone fruits that, remember, zones let you turn into animals. Well, mythical zones would let you turn into mystical animals. And in fact, one of Blackbeard's members of his crew has access to another legendary devil fruit that is the Dog Fruit model Nine-Tailed Fox, I believe. And I'll get into her because she's a whole kettle of crazy. But because of this Jolly Roger, some people believe that with the 3 skulls, that they believe that which I'm actually looking at a picture of it, and I can kind of see that you can make an argument that maybe they look a little bit dog-like. To me, they look more human skull-like, but I have heard some people say they look dog-like. But they think that the 3 skulls are symbolic of him having 3 devil fruit powers, and that because Cerberus, as we remember our Greek mythology, Cerberus was the 3-headed hellhound guard dog of the Greek underworld. Like, you did not go into the underworld without getting past Cerberus. There was a reason why Hercules had to fight and defeat Cerberus as part of, his 12 trials. Because that was a fear'some thing to try to overcome. Well, Cerberus having 3 heads would imply that if that is the implication, then okay, that means that Blackbeard has the ability to transform into a part man, part 3-headed dog monstrosity, but he's just never demonstrated it. But some mythical zones have like a special ability, and I'll talk about that more with Marco when I talk about him. But basically, it's like if there's a unique effect that applies to the mythological animal, then the user of that mythological zone also gets access to that power. And so Cerberus having 3 heads, it might be implied that if Blackbeard really did eat a Cerberus fruit, that he is now able to, his Cerberus fruit would be like his default, and then he could eat 3 more fruits. Or at least 2 more fruits. Like, maybe the Cerberus would count as 1, and then he could eat 2 more fruits. So, maybe, okay, now he has the Yami Yami no Mi and the Gura Gura no Mi. So maybe he's at his limit, or maybe he can still eat 1 more fruit. Which would, okay, you could imagine, think of it as like this. The Cerberus is a 3-headed dog. It's 3 heads all attached to 1 body. So if you think of it this way, it's the Cerberus fruit power would now serve as Blackbeard's body, and then the 3 individual fruits would then end up as the 3 heads. So the Cerberus fruit would be the body that connects everything together, and then the dark fruit, the tremor fruit, and whatever else would act as the 3 heads. Which, okay, with just the 2 powers that he has, he's already a force to be reckoned with. He became a Yonko in record freaking time. He's a force to be reckoned with prior to the 2-year time skip, and he becomes even worse after the time skip. And so it's nuts. And what's making matters worse is that currently Blackbeard and his crew are traveling around trying to take down people who already have devil fruit powers. Like, they're on the hunt for devil fruits. One of his crew actually showed up at that tournament to try to take the Mera Mera no Mi, and Sabo managed to snatch it away from them. So they are on the hunt for devil fruit powers, and it seems that he wants everybody in his freaking crew to have a devil fruit power, so that, like, you know, a whole crew of nothing but devil fruit users would be extremely powerful. So this seems to be part of his master plan that we don't know a whole lot about. We don't know how he's still able to use more and more powers, and how many powers can he eventually obtain. But he's definitely going to be the main bad guy by the end of it, and Luffy's going to have to fight him, and just God knows how he's going to beat him. And the sad part is, you know, you look at a lot of parallels that Luffy and Blackbeard have between them. You know, that's what would make Blackbeard and Luffy like a good matchup, because, you know, Luffy is this, you know, he's a pirate, yes, but he's a good guy. He's pure-hearted. He will go out of his way to help somebody in need. He is your, you know, typical hero type character. You know, he sees something going wrong, he can't help sticking his nose in it, and you know, getting involved in helping out. That's how he actually managed to convince the majority of his crew to join him. Then Blackbeard, though, he's very deceitful, he's very conniving. I wouldn't be surprised if he has, like, dirt on every single one of his crew members that he could blackmail them with. You know, like, so make sure that they never turn on him. So they're like polar opposites, and that's what makes a good fight, you know, is when the two are so perfectly opposed to each other. Like, you can see similarities between the two of them, but they're so opposed to each other. Like I said, Blackbeard, you know, could be looked at as Luffy gone horribly wrong. So I cannot wait for that fight to take place, because I just want to know how in the heck Luffy's gonna beat him. But it's gonna be great. But that's all I have to say about Blackbeard. There's all the theories about his different devil fruits. The whole the second devil fruit power is actually in his ring. He has a weird genetically different body, so that can actually handle the two devil fruits. Or that he had eaten a devil fruit, possibly the Cerberus fruit, if such a thing does exist. And that's what gave him the ability to eat more than one devil fruit. But regardless, he is a man to be reckoned with, just like the real Blackbeard. There actually was a real Blackbeard. He's one of two characters I can think of that were actually named after real pirates, and the other one was Captain Kidd. And he is in the story. He does have a devil fruit power. His is pretty simple, and I'll probably just throw him in with like a multiple devil fruit video, because we haven't really seen a lot of him and what his powers can do. And his power is relatively simple to explain. But just think about it. He went from being just kind of a nobody. You know, Black went from being a nobody on the Whitebeard crew, betraying the whole big family, getting amazing powers, killing a Yonko. Like, that's the first time we've seen a Yonko actually be killed. The current Yonko, they can be injured, but we've seen them injured, but we've never seen them killed. He's the one that's been killed. And then he stole that guy's powers, and you know, now he's trying to like assemble a crew of all devil fruit users. And just to top it off, he has a guy who's a giant, and he's actually one of the biggest giants in the freaking One Piece world. You know, if you've been paying attention to the background of these battle videos, Marineford is not a small place. It's a very large building, and it was just big enough to hide one of Blackbeard's crew members, who was a giant that, like, when he stepped out from behind this enormous building, which just barely covered him up, he blotted out part of the sky. Like, people looked up and his shadow was being cast over them, like, for a freaking mile. You know, that guy's one of his freaking crew members. Yeah, you see it there in the background. That's not a small building. And one of Blackbeard's freaking crew members was hidden behind that. And he took up, like, the entire space behind it. Now, that guy has a devil fruit power that lets him, like, grow and shrink. So he can control his size. But, still. You know, that alone, that's freaking impressive. So, and plus, he's like, you know, obviously, if you think about it, it would take time to become a Yonko. You know, you got to gather up this strong crew and, you know, gather the power to, you know, become this force to be reckoned with. That's typically how it goes for Yonko. Freaking, Blackbeard went from being a nobody to gaining this great power, beating Ace, turning him in, becoming a warlord, so he's in good with the government, so they don't mind him being there at Marineford. When he knew the Whitebeard pirates would come to try to rescue Ace, and then he was playing his cards that Whitebeard would get took out in that fight, or he could, you know, get weakened enough that he could finish him off, and then he could take his powers. He's very conniving, very scheming. He's always up to something, and you know, and now he's a freaking Yonko. You know, he's been playing everybody from the very beginning, and now he's a Yonko. Yeah, he accomplished what would take years. What would take many years, he's done in about 2, maybe 2.5. So, you know, despite appearances, friggin' Blackbeard is something to be feared. Just like the real Blackbeard, who, fun fact before I wrap up this video, Blackbeard was known to play a little bit of a mind game with people. And if friggin' Teach here starts doing this, I will be kind of impressed that Oda had that kind of attention to detail. One thing that Blackbeard did, the real Blackbeard did to play mind games with his enemies, is he kind of wanted people to think he was some kind of monster, like he was some kind of demon. So what he did was he would take hemp and he would weave hemp into his long beard, and then he would light that hemp on fire with a small flame. It would be like the equivalent of like maybe a cigarette flame. You know, not a very big flame, just kind of like smoldering ash there. But because he's got parts of his beard burning, it's producing smoke. So he's got like smoke just like pouring off of and around his face. So it made him look like a monster. And like, I think that is an appropriate thing for a pirate that is gonna end up being a monster in the One Piece world. That's an appropriate dude to be named after. And I cannot wait to see our boy Luffy go up against him. I just cannot wait. That's gonna be freaking epic. Next up, let's see. We've covered everybody that's in the game. Let's cover the one last person that we've seen have a devil fruit and die, because there's a little bit to talk about with that person as well. So the next person we talk about will be Monet and her fruit, the Yuki Yuki no Mi, the Snow fruit.